Right, we're on page 102. 102 in the ABCs of Christian Maturity. Session number 7 on the financial freedom study. And we have talked about so far, we'll just do a quick little review here, running through. Of course, our introductions. The axioms of financial freedom. The goal is there to be rich toward God is our motive, and then also to be content, and then as well to be debt free. We talk about the axioms of financial freedom, or I'm sorry, not axioms. That was the first part. Then we talked about the antagonists of financial freedom, and those were covetousness, the love of money, greed, envy, overindulgence, impulsiveness, robbery, dishonesty, slothfulness, and unpreparedness. The next one here, as we look at the, hold on a minute. I said axioms earlier. It was aims was the first part that we dealt with. Now we're dealing with the axioms of financial freedom. Telling you this dust is getting me, bugging me. All right. So there are two basic things which need to be understood in order to enjoy the blessings of financial freedom. Those two things are the way to obtain wealth and the way to drain wealth. So those two things are the two things that we need to understand. So we're going to look at the way to obtain wealth. Bible legitimizes three means by which we may obtain wealth. And we'll go ahead and name all three, then we'll look at the details. Work, save and invest, gifts. Number one, work. According to Ecclesiastes chapter 5, the blessing and ability to work is man's portion and gift of God. Verses 18 and 19 say, Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. Letter B here, it says, according to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28, we'll go ahead and read that real quick here. It says, Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. According to this passage, the saved man should engage himself in honorable employment, not theft, but working. Chapter 6 there of Ephesians, verses 5 through 8, and then Colossians 3, 22 and 23. We're going to look at that real quick here. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of your heart, as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with goodwill, doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. Colossians chapter 3, verse 22 and 23 says, Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God, and whatsoever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord and not to men. So what kind of work ethic does the Lord expect of his children? Honest and pleasing? Do I have anything else? Okay. All right. I said I have to work honestly, my best, as working unto the Lord. Or giving my best. I skipped that. Giving my best as working unto the Lord. So that was letter A, number one there, work. Um, he dealt mainly here with employment. You also have the option of business, which goes along with work as well. Um, you can whatever you're doing basically to produce value, so that you have income, producing value in such a way that's moral, ethical, and legal. So you don't sell things that are illegal. You don't do things that are illegal to produce income, but producing value for someone, whether it be services or goods that you make or that you make available to people. Um, so that basically is a little bit. I mean, he doesn't really get into the details of the work thing. There's all kinds of ways that you can work. You can go work for someone, or you can do business type work as well. Number two, savings and investment. According to Proverbs 21, verse 20, which says, "There is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up." So according to this, it says a wise man, very good, will set aside funds as a reserve against unexpected expenses. All right. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 2. "Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth." Teaches the principle of diversification. From this verse, it comes the saying, "Don't put all your eggs into one basket." Get the idea? 7 or 8. You have a lot of things going on. It's a good idea when it comes to investing. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket if you're going to invest, even in business. Because some people get really good. They get business with one company, and they feel like they have stability there. So that company goes out of business. Well, you no longer have stability. That's something that I've heard people say. Well, why don't you just get a job? Then you have a consistent income and something you can count on. It's like, well, I can count on that about as good as I can count on any customer that I might have in the business world, because just as easily as I could lose an account or lose a relationship with a company that I work with a company that I work with as a business, I could also lose my relationship as an employee. And oftentimes, you can more easily lose your relationship as an employee. So sometimes it's more risky to be an employee than it is to be in business on your own. But the idea in terms of savings and investment here, in business, diversify. One thing when I used to do, I know I mentioned cleaning industry before, but when I used to be in the cleaning industry, worked for a large cleaning company, and their big account, in fact, more than 50% of their business came from one customer. I'm like, it's not good. And they lost that customer. And it about put them out of business. It took them years to recover, losing that one customer, because they had way too many eggs in that basket. They didn't diversify. And so the idea is, have lots of options. That's one thing, people ask me, who do you work for? I say, I work for a lot of people. Work for a whole lot of people, and so, well, who pays you? Well, I get a check coming from over here, check coming from over there, and over here, all different places. The idea is, you diversify. You don't have money coming in over here, then you might have it coming in over there. So same thing in investing. If you're going to invest in a company and try to get some profit off of an investment, you want to not take everything that you have to invest and put it in one company. Take it, split it up, different places. Brother Travis mentioned for me this Acorn app thing. I believe I did the wrong thing to begin with, because I put it under some aggressive thing, and I ended up losing a bunch of money last year. I haven't looked at it for a couple months. I'm not real sure how I'm doing now, but I changed it to a more conservative investment profile, and now it's doing a little better. Basically, it's an app that takes the change off of all of your resources, and it invests it. So like, you go buy, something at the store, you get gas, and it was like $1 or well, not $1. It was like $36.45. Well, the other 55 cents, they let it build up, and then when it's $5, they take $5 out of your bank account and apply it to your investments. So, Travis, did you ever do that? How's it worked out? You haven't checked it? But they do the more conservative investments splits it up into a lot of different places. They take it, they'll put it, in stocks and bonds and government, government bonds. I guess, right? You don't know. Right. I guess my session has expired, so it's not going to let me log in. I had to change mine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to look and see what I've gained. It's growing though. Anyways, yeah, yeah. Except when you lose it. Yeah. Look at performance here. Oh wow, I've done pretty good. I've gained $2.66 over the last 30 days. No, over the last one day. Hold on. Gained $12.64 this month. Go to performance, and then, but in the last 6 months, I've lost $7.76 overall. Hey. The idea, though, I mean, it goes up and down. So the reason the last 6 months was that way is because, like, in the last 2, maybe 3 months, at the point that I realized that the aggressive thing wasn't doing very good, and changed it. I had already for like almost a year had been on that aggressive, and I'd lost like $40 on it. Didn't realize it, but then I changed it and I started gaining a little bit. So I've got a long way to go before I catch back up to where I was. But there's still a decent amount. I think I have $600 or $700 sitting in there invested. So, right. So but it's taken a couple years. But I've got like 4 different cards that it's taken off of. So like, if I go spend money or she spends money, or if it's on the bank card or the American Express or whatever, they'll take that and invest it. That's one way you can do investing, but they split it up, and the conservative investing is supposed to be split up into more categories and putting the more solid type investments that are already known the outcome primary, and the other stuff secondary. So anyways, the principle there of diversification is a good idea, whether it's business, whether it's, that's something Brother Travis is doing as well. He's got clients at Gold's Gym. He's got clients at, other places, and all over the place kind of thing. And so if something happened and they closed down the last Gold's Gym in the city, well, it would hurt, but it wouldn't totally wipe him out. He'd have other stuff, other places. So that's the idea. Diversify, make it all work out. I think you leaned against a wall there. You got some drywall dust on. So letter C. In the parable of the talents, which you can read, hopefully you've already read it. There it is. The parable of the talents, Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. The Lord endorses what? Nope. Does that fit there? Did you spell it wrong? No. Let's go back. Verses 16 and 17. He says, Then he that had received the 5 talents went and trading. Traded with the same and made them other 5 talents. So trading and getting what? Gain. Yeah. And then investing and receiving what? Verse 27. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money in, or to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Usury, that's interest. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about our system, though, is like, you go get a loan and you pay interest, like outrageous interest. If you use a credit card, you're paying 30% interest. It's crazy, or maybe 20, or maybe 9, or maybe 0 for a while until they decide they want to raise the interest rate. But you get a mortgage. What's the standard interest rate on mortgages right now? 2 or 3%, something like that. What? Well, if you got like super credit and great everything, 3 or 4 or 5. Okay. Both of our mortgages are 4.5%. But you think about it. If I loan the bank $100,000, anybody know what interest rate you get? The rate, the percentage. What does the bank give us these days? No. Like 0.02 or 0.05 or something like that. And then if you jump through all the hoops at Forum Credit Union, you can get a specific better rate. Are you jumping through all 4 or 5 hoops that you have to jump through to get that rate? They talked me into getting an account there based on that rate thing that you're talking about. You have to have a checking account with a certain balance in it. You have to have a savings account with a certain balance in it. And then there was like 2 other things. Like you had to use the card at least so many times for the month. And then there's something else. And then if you did all that, then all of your accounts had, 2.5% or something like that. But think about that. You loan them. What's that? Right. That is better than anywhere else you see. So the best you find is what? 1 or 2%. But you want to borrow $100,000, you got to pay 2 to 3 times as much, at least. At least. Why does it work that way? Well, because they make the rules. So that's why, right? What's that? Right. But see, if you go to them and you say, look, I've got the money, I'll set the interest rate. You want my money in your bank? You do these rules. Now, of course, you got to go to the bank with a pretty hefty pile of cash and say, look, I'd like to put this money in the bank, in your bank. Don't rob me now. I want to put this money in your bank, and I want it in writing that you're going to give me the same interest rate that you charge. Anyways, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be wonderful? But Donald Trump did, yeah. There's a whole lot of hoops you got to jump through to start a bank, and you have to have at least, I don't remember if it's $1 million or $5 million you have to have in reserves. And then what's the other crazy thing is they can loan out money they don't even have because they're a bank. It's called fractional reserve lending. If you have $1 million, you can loan out up to $9 million, depending on the rules. Sometimes it's as much as 10 times what you have. You only have to have a fraction for the reserves to lend out. Craziness. But anyways, the Lord said it was okay to loan to the bank or invest in that way and receive usury. Take it to the exchangers and get usury that way. And Luke chapter 19, verse 23 says, wherefore then gavest thou not my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with usury. So it says, remember, there is a biblical balance to be maintained here. We must avoid covetousness and the love of money or greed. We don't, it's great to be able to earn, but we have to have a biblical balance there. We don't want to just build up a huge savings and investment account that's like, now we're rich and all that. It's not wrong to have things. It's not wrong to have income and money and all that, but you have to have a balance. We need to make sure that that's not what our focus and our primary goal is. Of course, we all think about what happens when I'm too old to work and I can't handle all that. Social Security is no longer there, and I can't count on anybody else. I got to count on myself. How do I prepare for that? There are lots of ways that you can do that. You can do investing. Tell you one thing that's a great investment is property, real estate. If you have real estate that's bringing income, then that's a great investment. That's something you can use. Other things you can do investing in companies that are earning money, and your investments grow in that way. There's other ways to invest in companies as well. Besides just the open stock market, you can invest privately in companies. You go to business owners and get contracts with them and provide capital for their business, whether it's a startup or whether it's and of course there's a lot of risk in that. You go to somebody that's about to start a business and say, hey, I would like to help invest. I would like to help you with your startup capital for your business. I'll give you, 10 grand. It's a portion for your startup. Now, of course, they probably need, 100,000 or $1 million, but if they can get 10 people to give them $10,000, well, they've got their startup capital, and then they can go and try to go and do it. What's that? Move to Mexico? No. They can go and try to get their business going, and they'll be under contract that, that whatever the terms are. But when you do that, you also recognize that when you invest in a company, you own a portion of that company, if that's the term, anyways. If those are the terms. And that company could increase in value, and it could decrease in value. I bought stock with Helio Motors before it became public, and it was $12 a stock. And when it became public the first week, it went over $60 a stock. But now it's down to 13. So, and it's the company still has not yet produced a vehicle. They're not even set to produce the vehicle until the fall. So those stocks, they may shoot way up, and they may come way down, but they're gonna, when you invest in a company, you take that risk that the company's value may go down or may go up. And so over time, though, hopefully, it may go spike way up like they did, and then come back down and kind of even keel for a while. And then when they produce the product and people like the product, and then the value of the company comes up, then they're doing better. So that's, you also want to make sure that you're careful how many eggs you put in a basket. So as we looked at, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put most of your eggs in baskets that are more risky than others, as we already talked about on the other. But lots of ways to do that. But again, we want to avoid covetousness. We want to avoid the love of money or greed, or anything like that. We just want to do what's right, and of course provide for our families, and of course we want to plan for the future. Like I said, there's lots of ways to do that, and I recommend not doing just one. Do multiple. Some people buy other property that they think they can sell later, whether it's cars or you've done some of that, and done well with it. So that's a way you can do it. Whether it's selling a service that you're able to sell, even when you get to a point where you can't physically do other things, you may still be able to sell a certain service. It's one of the things I'm working on as an adjuster. There's going to come a time when I can't climb on a ladder and get on a roof anymore. And so the service that I'll sell will be sitting behind a desk and reviewing other people's files. And so that, those are things that you can do. And I can probably do that all the way until I'm pretty much can't see anymore. Yep. And then at that point, hopefully I got enough rental properties to take care of what's that? Or I lose my mind. That may happen sooner. But hopefully by then I got enough rental properties and somebody else managing them will take care of things. That's my retirement plan. Really is kind of a is that. Now, of course, the Lord will take care of us. I understand, but as He also gives us a responsibility to be wise with what He gives us, and so we need to do so. Number 3, and we'll end with number 3 here. A good man will leave an inheritance to his grandchildren. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22 says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now, don't totally misunderstand this. This isn't just talking about, money and goods and things. It's talking about an inheritance. If you leave a good inheritance for your children and your grandchildren, it's not just that the purpose of the parents isn't to work all their life real hard so that the kids don't have to. It's not the point. The point's not to provide for college funds for your kids. It's not the point's not to be able to pamper them so that when they get older, they have no understanding of working hard. That's not the idea. Leaving an inheritance means that you leave something for them, but more important than the things you leave for them is what you taught them and what stayed with them. After you're long gone, if your children and your grandchildren I remember Grandpa, he was a hard worker. I remember he taught us character and taught us how to, to do this, and so that is a great inheritance to leave for your children and your grandchildren, is to teach them work ethic, teach them diligence, teach them to be honest and to be wise in their dealings, and that is a great inheritance. And along with that, leave them something to remember you by. Whether it's something small or, my dad didn't have much when he passed, but there were little things. There's some little things that I still have that I remember him by, that I inherited, that really he probably wouldn't have even thought, oh, that's an inheritance or whatever. I still have tools that I use that came from my dad, and so there's a lot of that kind of thing, but that reminds me of him, but more than the thing that reminds me of him, what do I think about when I think about him? Were there things that he did? Now there might have been, of course you could always think of all the negative stuff that someone did, but in terms of the inheritance, did I inherit something from him? Did he teach me to think analytically? That was one thing that my dad did do. He always, would question things and ask me, hey, how do you think this works, or how does that? And so that's kind of where I got that analytical mind and thinking about, can I just cut that wall out and move it over there? And, that's kind of weird, but hey, it works, You can do those things. I don't really know how to do this stuff. You just kind of figure it out as you go. But and that's something that I inherited from my dad. And then, something else that was taught. I'm not sure. I think it was probably more my uncle, honestly, and that was networking. He doesn't know he taught me this. Don't tell him when he gets back. But networking, and being able to use resources that you have outside of yourself, like teamwork kind of thing, And when I look at the way his business used to run, he had a really profitable, well-run business. And the reason it was that way is because he had a good team of people that were able to do the things that he couldn't do. Without those people, well, he doesn't have a real profitable business anymore. So, but that's the idea. You use the resources that God gives to do the best that you can for His glory. And so that's kind of the thought. So that an inheritance, you can leave inheritance to your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, anybody basically that you spend time with in your life. Something that they remember. Oh man, I remember that guy. He, even people that aren't your family members, you leave something to someone. Think about actually the guy Howard Rainwater. Who knew Howard? Did anybody? David. He was an interesting fellow. I'll tell you what. There's some things I think about Howard, and I'm like, that was really wise. That was a really, he left some stuff behind. that we can take and use that are useful. That's good inheritance there. Letter B here. According to Proverbs 19, verse 14, says, "House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord." Amen. A house and riches are the inheritance of fathers. Don't look to your father for a prudent wife, though. That comes from the Lord. Although my dad approved. So, he always joked about it. He's like, "No, you can't marry her. I'm going to marry her." Can't marry her, Dad. Letter C. Remember saying that. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 14. "Behold, the third time I am ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I seek not yours, but you. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children." This teaches the principle that the parents lay up for the children. Right. By the way, don't raise your children, if you haven't already raised your children, don't raise your children to expect to just get everything. But also don't raise your children to expect to just give everything. The children have to be taught that someday they're going to be parents, and they have to sometimes sacrifice because they're parents. They have to take care of the children. That's an important thing. But again, like I said before, it's not the parent's job to make sure that everything, obviously it's the parent's job to make sure that all the needs of the kids are fulfilled up to the point where they could or should be able to provide for themselves. And at that point where they should be able to provide for themselves, give them the boot knobs. Lovingly and gently teach them that it's time for them to take care of themselves. Men especially. For the young ladies, of course, you teach them how to be a young woman, a successful woman that's going to be honorable to the Lord, and primarily to take care of her family and the needs of her children, if the Lord should give her some. So those are things that, and of course her position in the church to teach the younger ladies how to grow up and be the ladies that they ought to be. Any questions or comments on any of those things we talked about on ways to obtain wealth? Anybody have any other ideas? Strike oil. Campbell. No. What's that? You digging your well yet? Oh, you talking about me digging my well? I give up. Yeah, strike oil. Yeah, that would be something you don't spend your time and energy on trying to figure out unless you have a pretty good reason. That would be a business venture. If you happen to have a good reason to believe that there's oil below your property, then you could possibly dig for oil. Not likely in this area. But yeah, Proverbs. The virtuous woman, consider the field and buyeth it. I think it's important, ladies, to understand that she first considered, which means she spent time thinking about it. She didn't just say, "Oh, field, buy it. It's mine." No, she considered it first. Thought about, is this a wise decision? Should I buy this field or should I buy a different field? Or should I even buy it? What's that? You can consider a whole lot. Right. Yes. Yeah. Be careful what you end up buying. Yeah. Well, there's other. It depends on what it is, and how it's presented as well. There's some things that are very well presented for men, things that are very well presented for women. And you know what? People are just getting better and better at advertising and marketing. Hey, people even hire people to do that for them. Are you going to say something, Oscar? Oh, I thought you were just getting ready. You didn't want to raise your hand while I was talking. All right. Anything else? Plan B? What's that? You don't know? I thought that was Ezra that said no. Nothing else. All right. Well, amen. Let's pray.